For the gamers who love games, why wait for greatness? Xbox One is here.
The basic conflict at the heart of the Order 1886 is that considerations for a cinematic approach are prioritized above the needs of basic gameplay. The Order's best parts are contained within its stunning looks, its atmosphere, its style, which are truly fantastic. But the shallow, slow, generic, quick-time event-riddled gameplay make it feel like an experience that would have been better served by a non-interactive movie than a game. With no multiplayer, and no reason to revisit the short and stunted single-player campaign, there just isn't a lot to it.
What's going on, guys? Bryce360 here for your gaming news and entertainment all around you. So I'm pretty sure you guys have heard or seen somewhere on maybe a YouTube video or in an article that the Order 1886 is getting some pretty bad, mediocre type scores, 5s and 6s. A lot of review gaming sites are reviewing the game pretty bad, and they're saying that the gameplay and replayability is, pretty dull, boring. What I find personally strange is, though, mostly Sony fanboys are extremely upset. They're on YouTube making rant videos on a game that clearly deserves mediocre scores, bad reviews, but they don't understand why. What I find usually in the rant videos is, they'll play it for like 1-2 hours, and they're like, this game's amazing, this game has awesome graphics. But if you actually read some of the articles, it's not really the graphics. The graphics are beautiful, they look great. I'm not going to sit here and sugarcoat and say that, kind of cover stuff up and say the graphics are bad, because they're not. They're probably some of the best graphics on a console right now. I'm not going to lie about it. They look beautiful. The problem is the gameplay. The gameplay is boring. It's drawn out, it's short, and it's filled with QuickTime events. And on top of that, it doesn't include any kind of replayability. It has no multiplayer. I see some people try to compare this to a Gears of War, with some other mix. But the problem is Gears of War had great graphics. For most of the Gears of War, it had a good story. But what really made Gears of War shine is it had really good multiplayer. It actually had multiplayer, and it made it stand out. But the Order, you play it through, you might get 5 hours, possibly if you drag it on, maybe 7. I'm going to give you more than you need on that. That's probably adding in watching all the QuickTime events and all that. But after that, you're done. So does that warrant $60 for a 5, maybe 7 hours of total time gameplay? Do you want to pay $60? And they don't understand what these review sites are. You have GameSpot reviewing a game and putting low scores on this game. And we all know GameSpot. They are in favor of the PlayStation. So if they're giving you mediocre scores, why go out and make rant videos on a game that clearly doesn't deserve good scores? Graphics are good, but graphics don't mean everything. So I'm going to give you my opinion on what I think the Order 1886 would have got better scores with. What would have it taken to get better scores? Graphically, the game's nice, so it's got that department taken care of. What it actually needs is multiplayer. On top of multiplayer, they probably should have added less QuickTime events. I know what they were trying to do, but most gamers today complain that a game with QTEs is just not a good way to go. It's not anything new, so I don't know why they were saying, oh, well, it's something new, because it's not. But what really bothers me, especially in the comment sections, I hear people talking about, oh, they need to come out with DLC on this game and add in multiplayer, and they're excited for that. But the problem is when do we draw a line? When do we say, we're not paying for downloadable content? This game was 5 years in the making. Why would they add DLC and charge you for it? Is this going to be another Drive Club incident? That's what you have to ask yourself. Do you want it to be like Drive Club, where they patch in weather? The multiplayer doesn't function. I'm not saying that Xbox doesn't have its issues. I mean, we had the Halo, travesty. It was terrible. But what we can't do is start accepting DLC add-ons of multiplayer. The game should have had multiplayer. If the game is only 5, maybe 6 hours, and it doesn't have multiplayer added on, the game deserves low scores because we're not looking at just graphics. We're looking at gameplay. We're looking at replayability. We're looking at if that $60 is worth that game for a 5, maybe 6 hour experience. For me, I would say no. I think if they would have released the game for about $30, possibly $40, it would have warranted more of a fee of that price, a value of that price. It should have got better scores. Now, I'm not saying it would have gotten a lot higher scores. I probably would have put it in around the 7.5 range. And the reason is because they still should add some sort of multiplayer or at least remove some of those QuickTime events. We don't need QTEs in games anymore. Games look realistic enough to play through them and look beautiful without QTEs. We used to use QTEs way back in the day, and the reason is because games looked like trash back in the day, even though they had really good gameplay, but they used QTEs to make you feel like you were playing a cinematic. Today, games are close to cinematic level. They're not quite there yet, but they're close enough to feel like you are in more control. I don't want to sit there and watch a movie and hit X on a screen. I could do that watching a movie and just holding my controller and pressing X. You're not really interacting. You're just progressing by pressing a button. So, to get back on topic, I just don't understand why mostly Sony fanboys are damage controlling, once again I have to use this word, on a game that is mediocre. Just because it has beautiful graphics doesn't mean it deserves a score extremely high. You take a title like The Last of Us, $60 game. Look what you get in there. Beautiful graphics. Really good gameplay. So, how can you say the order is even close to the value of that? I can't. So all I ask is, and this isn't going to stop anybody, stop complaining about the score. It deserves this score. I don't care how fun the game is. It doesn't matter how fun the game is. What matters is that $60 worth that game? And the answer is no. You know it. I know you do. You're just complaining because you're tired of hearing Xbox fanboys and going into there and just saying the game's trash. I've even said the game's trash. I don't mean it's literally trash. What I mean is it's not worth the money that you're paying it for. If you rented that game, that would be the most amazing experience ever. Because you're not paying that money. You're just renting it out. You're spending a few dollars. You could go and get it for like $7 to $10 on a rental and beat it in like less than a day. That's where we're going with this. It's the value. I'm sure you guys you've heard this before. The game itself, beautiful. But there's no replayability. It's short. Compare it to The Last of Us. Compare it to Sunset Overdrive. Completely different game. Sunset Overdrive, it's got beautiful graphics. It's got great gameplay. It's got multiplayer. That's a $60 title. I don't want a Metal Gear Solid demo. Give me something with value. And that's all I'm saying. All right, guys. Thanks for watching.